Welcome friends to another r/entitled parents video. If you're a supportive kind of person, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Grit O, entitled Mom Wants to Know Why I Got to Board Before Her. A little bit of context before I get to the bones of the story. I, 21-year-old female, have never flown by myself before. I was super nervous about it, so I tried to avoid every possible roadblock before I even got to the airport. Last Monday, my flight that I originally was scheduled for was canceled due to bad weather. Luckily, I was rescheduled, so my flight went from 11:30 p.m. on Monday to 8:30 a.m. Tuesday. I wasn't super stoked to be up that early, but I was still glad that I was going home for fall break. I got through TSA okay and made it across the airport to my gate. The people at the gate looked a little grumpy, but I just chalked it up to the flight being canceled the night before. I paid to choose my own seat and for priority boarding, so I could get on the plane and be done with it. I was also worried about possibly needing a seatbelt extender, so I wanted to spare myself any additional embarrassment and get it over with. I ended up not needing it. The gate agent announced that at 7:45, the boarding process would begin. Those who need assistance first, then military, and then priority boarding. A woman with her mother in a wheelchair boarded, then a nice old man in a walker and his wife, and then finally, the entitled mom and her kids. Entitled Mom had 4 teenage daughters with her, and one of them was in a wheelchair. All 5 of them walked up to the gate agent to board, and the following conversation ensued. The entitled mother says, "We're ready to pre-board, my daughter's in a wheelchair." The gate agent says, "Alright ma'am, can I see your boarding passes?" The entitled mother and her kids all show their phones to the gate agent and he scans them. The gate agent says, "Okay ma'am, it looks like the girl is the only one approved for pre-boarding, but I can let one of you board with her if she needs assistance." The girl says, "I can board on my own, I don't need help." The entitled mother says, "Don't be silly, she needs us to help her. She can't get seated by herself, she's disabled, right girls?" Entitled mother and her 3 daughters agree amongst themselves while the girl tries to sink into her chair. The entitled mother adds, "Who will help her if we aren't on the plane? She can't get on herself, you have to let all of us board with her." The girl says, "I can get in myself, I don't need help." The gate agent says, "Well, ma'am, if she says she can board herself, then she can board herself. I'm sure a flight attendant can help her get her seated if she needs it." The entitled mother says, "She needs us to help her. She can't do it herself. Why can't you freaking get that?" The girl says, "I'm 17. I can get on the plane myself, mom." The gate agent says, "Ma'am, she's insistent that she can seat herself, so I'll have a flight attendant come assist her on the ramp, and you can wait until your group is called. Even if she did want your assistance, I'm sure all 4 of you don't have to help her." The gate agent called a flight attendant who helped the girl board. He then called for priority boarding, so I stood up, grabbed my bags, and showed the gate agent my boarding pass. The entitled mother says, "Why does she get to board? She isn't disabled, this is BS." I felt my face get hot and I started to get nervous, and the gate agent said, "She paid for priority boarding, therefore she gets to board before everyone else." The entitled mother says, "That makes no sense. I don't get to pre-board with my daughter, but she gets to board before everyone else." The gate agent says, "Ma'am, we have a belligerent passenger policy, and if I deem you a threat, you don't have to fly." That shut her up, and I boarded as fast as I could. Walking on the plane, I saw the girl sitting in the front row, quietly reading a book and listening to music. If that's how that lady acted then, I don't want to know how she acts the rest of the time. She probably was embarrassed and I felt bad for her. I got to my seat at the middle of the plane, and towards the end of the boarding, I saw why the entitled mother and her daughters wanted to board with the girl. They were part of the last boarding group, all the way at the back of the plane. My flight went well, and I had a good time at home with my family. I hope entitled mom and her family had a good trip too, even if she was an entitled jerk. If you worked a customer-facing job like this, but you had the authority to really control whether or not somebody gets a service they desperately need, would you do what this gate agent did and remind people that, if you're acting belligerent, I can just kick you right out of here and you don't have to fly? Let me know in the comments down below if you'd use that policy a lot. Our next story is by Threat in Many States, entitled Mom at Restaurant. I never expected this to happen. So basically, I was at a restaurant, I sat down and placed my order. 5 minutes later, some woman and her 2 children walk in. The mom says, "My friend is here." I thought nothing of it until the woman walked up to me and said, "Hey, may I sit here? My son and daughter are hungry." I replied with, "Sorry, I already placed an order and all the seats are taken. You have to wait for a seat to open like everyone else." She looks at me and says, "I don't care, you have to give me your seats because my children are really hungry." I replied with, "Ma'am, if you're really hungry, go to a different restaurant." She raises her voice a little, just enough for a small amount of attention to be drawn to the situation. She says, "Don't give me attitude, just give me your table and leave." I was bothered, and then the son said, "Mom, let's just go to another restaurant." The mother says, "No, sweetie, we aren't leaving." She grabs my arm and throws me off the chair. Nearly everyone in the restaurant has their attention towards us. The staff hadn't seen, which confused me. I got up off the ground and she sat down. I was furious and I told her, "Ma'am, get out of my seat." She got red in the face and screamed at me, "No, I was here first." I think she hadn't noticed. Everyone clearly saw her throw me off. She stood back up and proceeded to get in my personal space. I wear a mask and I'm really afraid of COVID. She doesn't wear a mask. She just started yelling at me so fast, all I got out of it was, "You are selfish, you don't care for children, and I bet you have a disease." I lightly shove her away, big mistake. She runs backwards into a random table and fake falls. At this point, the staff are walking towards us. I can hear whispering. There's two workers. Worker 1 said, "What's going on?" The parent gets up and screams, "He threw me." A random man, let's call him Mike, stands up and says, "She's lying." She screams, "You have nothing to do with this." Mike says, "Well, I recorded everything." After Mike shows them the video, worker 2 kicks her out and everything ended up fine. Honestly, I was gonna say it seems a little too convenient that the random guy Mike recorded everything. But honestly, after taking a second and thinking about just how many videos pop up on Twitter, on Reddit, on YouTube of all these random things that you're like, why was this person filming to begin with, or how did they get the footage of this moment? It kind of makes you realize that if there's a sign of a confrontation, odds are nowadays somebody might whip out their phone and start recording it, especially if they want to post it on some place where Karen hate gets a lot of clicks. This next story is by Dreamy Fairy. Entitled parents threaten to ostracize me unless I marry someone from our culture. A little background, my 27-year-old female's parents are very nationalist and are against dating and marrying outside of our culture. We immigrated to Country 1 when I was 10, and the immigrant life was hard for my parents in Country 1. They were afraid that I would end up marrying someone outside of our culture and prohibited me from having boyfriends. I never cared for culture or nationality, so I still dated, secretly of course, but they found out often, as I was always heavily controlled by my brother, 32-year-old male, and I was forced to break up, grounded, and given the silent treatment until I learned my lesson. At 19, I moved to Country 2 for my studies, mainly to escape my emotionally abusive household. I finally started feeling like I was living for myself. At first, I tried to solve things and forgive my family, but I've been visiting less and less over the years, and I'm feeling very estranged from them. I feel that they don't really know who I am. They can't accept anyone, let alone their children, having a different opinion or lifestyle. I've been living in Country 2 for 8 years now and plan on staying here. My parents went back to our home country around 5 years ago and have since then been urging me to also go back as soon as I finish my studies so that I can find someone to marry from our home country. Back to now, I've been together with my partner for 8 months and things are very solid. We have a very healthy and loving relationship and are slowly planning our future together. He was born and raised in Country 2. I hesitated telling my parents in the beginning, knowing the type of reaction I'll get, so I've been waiting for a good moment to tell them. Well, I finally did it last night, and oh god did it feel liberating. And as expected, they had a huge emotional reaction, a lot of threatening, choose well because if you choose to go through with this relationship, you'll be alone, and you will lose your parents, we will erase you. They said my relationship won't last more than 2 years and that I'll suffer endlessly. I try to stand my ground and tell them that they should accept me for who I am, just like I accept them for who they are. My mom called me again today asking if I've reconsidered. Said that I completely broke them, that I'm disappointing the family and disrespecting their only wish, which was to never marry someone outside of our culture. She said I'll bring shame into the family. What an insane concept, that of shame. My brother recently got married to a girl from our culture. Before that, he dated someone from Country 1. He hid it from our parents, worried that they wouldn't accept her. Eventually, they broke up. During that relationship, I was always supportive, and when they broke up, my brother would call me daily to talk, and I would try to console him and be there for him. Now that I'm in the same situation, he's kind of turned his back on me and keeps trying to convince me to break up and find someone from our culture. He claims he'll support me no matter what, but still argues with me and tells me I'm making the wrong decision at every chance. On top of that, my cousin, which was my childhood best friend, called me today to try to talk me out of my relationship, saying that it's not worth it to lose my parents over a partner. Apparently, my mom called my aunt crying and they're worried I'm making the wrong decision. I told my cousin that they're the ones who are rejecting and abandoning me, and I don't wish to argue over this. I have the right to choose, just like everyone else. I just hate that my family won't even try to meet my partner. I'm being treated like a child and not an adult who can decide for themselves. I've spent my life fearing abandonment and rejection from my family, and I'm tired of it. As conflicted as it is, I still do love my family and care for them. Part of me wants to cut them off completely. Part of me pities them and hopes they'll eventually accept me for who I am. It just sucks that their love and support is conditional. Something I've come to realize personally and what I've accepted is if there's somebody out there that legitimately makes you happy and makes every day better for you and you want to be with them, your parents hating that person or a former friend hating that person, for very unjust reasons especially, ultimately should not come in the way between you and the person that legitimately makes your life the best it can be. If you asked me, I would say that OP should just keep going the way they're going. If their parents cut them off, so be it. At least they're with somebody that really makes a difference in who they want to be with. Our next story is by Trade Beautiful 42, entitled Sister Trying to Justify Controlling Access to My Newborn Baby. I have an entitled mother that I'm no contact with, and an entitled sister that I'm low contact with. My dumb butt decided to let both know I'm pregnant and to kinda reconcile with entitled sister, so she came down for the birth. If faced with the choice again, I would prefer getting kicked in the face by a donkey. It was that enjoyable. Entitled sister invited herself to stay, without asking, for the entire first week of my son's life under the guise of helping. Helping in this sense meant that I not only recovered from a C-section and took care of a newborn, but entertained entitled sister and cooked for her or ordered us food on my dime. I tried to be patient, to take pics of her with the baby and be gracious as she can't have kids. Lord, I tried. Twice this week, I had a buffer in the form of a postpartum doula. She's been helping with techniques for childcare to put us on a schedule and such. Being childless and never having researched anything about childcare, entitled sister picked up on 2 tips: wake windows and tummy time. All week, she used both as reasons to tell me that I'm failing at being a parent because I'm not spending enough minutes doing either and trying to control not only how I care for my child, but access to him, as she insisted on holding him when it was time to put him down for a nap. Things came to a head one night when she was picking on me again and yelling at me that I'm not caring for him correctly because of wake windows. I firmly said, "You need to back off and you don't know what you're talking about." Things escalated until she told me that I'm a bad mom and don't pay attention to my child. She further said I couldn't use just giving birth as an excuse. It was 6 days after I had a C-section and was actively bleeding and in pain. That I'm making this experience about me and threatened to leave. I said, "Good, nobody invited you to stay. Please do pack up and go." In the 2 days since, I've learned she tried to tell on me to my doula. She does not know that the doula and I had a conversation about these techniques, and she said it's good practice as they're not really recommended until week 6. It was day 6. Doula also said I'm doing great. Entitled sister also doesn't know my pediatrician isn't a fan of starting wake windows so early. Entitled sister is now texting my boyfriend playing victim and saying she and the doula believe I have postpartum, and it's worrisome I'd kick her out. Neither the doula nor my BF or anyone else thinks I have postpartum or am acting strange. No, which I just don't think I have to deal with your stuff when you don't know what you're talking about. Boyfriend is now trying to play peacemaker, but I'm ready to write her off and go no contact after this experience. Thanks for reading my rant. So they come out for the birth and then stay there and expect you to do all this work for them while you're recovering from a C-section surgery? I mean, just that alone is enough to say that it's not okay. You know, when somebody comes over to help with something, let's not even say it's about babies. You would think that the person helping would say, "Okay, what do you need help with?" or "How can I help you?" Not some kind of form of, "Get out of the way, I know what to do, I know best." That kind of thing is just narcissistic. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.